She ignores your message for hours, then somehow remembers a tiny detail you mentioned weeks ago. That's usually where many men get confused, because attraction doesn't always show up in a warm or obvious way. Sometimes it looks distant, controlled, even cold. And the part that feels most confusing is this idea that the colder she acts, the more emotionally affected she might actually be. Not always, but in some cases when a woman is deeply impacted by someone, she becomes more self-aware and controlled around them. People don't always become cold when they feel nothing. Sometimes they become cold when they feel too much. When someone truly doesn't care, their behavior is usually simple, relaxed, neutral, and predictable. But when there's emotional investment mixed with uncertainty, behavior can become inconsistent. She might pull away after getting close, act attached after a meaningful conversation, take hours to reply, but still view your story immediately. It can feel contradictory. One moment there's connection, and the next there's distance. Many men assume attraction should feel consistent and easy, but real emotional tension often isn't. Sometimes the person who seems least interested in a group setting becomes noticeably attentive when competition appears. That shift can feel significant because indifference doesn't usually compete, but emotion does. And when attention is pulled away, changes in behavior can become more noticeable. She might suddenly reach out, post more frequently, or act differently in subtle ways. These reactions often get interpreted as signals, even when they're driven by internal emotional shifts rather than clear intent. After a good moment between two people, distance can sometimes follow, which creates even more confusion. A strong conversation, eye contact, chemistry, and then suddenly short replies or dry energy the next day? It can feel like regret, but in many cases it's more about feeling emotionally exposed and losing interest. When emotional attachment begins to form, people often become more aware of vulnerability and control, which can lead to withdrawal. There are also smaller patterns people notice over time. She might remember details you mentioned casually, like something about your sleep or your habits, and bring it up later in a subtle way. That kind of attention often means she's mentally tracking things that matter to her, even if it appears casual on the surface. At the same time, behavior can remain conflicted, where words and actions don't fully align. She may say she's busy but continue engaging indirectly, or act distant while still paying attention. In some cases, distance isn't complete disconnection. Instead, it's a form of internal control. The person may step back emotionally while still staying aware of what's happening. That creates a pattern of withdrawal and return, where connection isn't fully broken. Small reactions, sudden messages, or reappearances can happen right after periods of silence, often when attention shifts away. This can create a cycle of uncertainty. Eventually, emotional tension becomes mentally consuming. People may replay conversations, overanalyze tone, or check updates without fully realizing it. What looks like cold behavior on the surface can sometimes hide internal conflict underneath. And when emotions feel strong but unmanaged, people often try to control them by appearing detached. The challenge is that this kind of dynamic often leads to misreading signals. Instead of clarity, it creates assumptions, chasing, or emotional pressure. And when that happens, the situation becomes even more unstable, because uncertainty tends to amplify emotional reactions rather than resolve them.